Izzy said that John Jones is washed, and he thinks he is jealous of him. Well, there's an argument to be made, because if you go on Twitter, if you go on his Twitter, all he's talking about, he's just talking smack about Izzy, right? But even then, there's not much for him to be jealous of. But I guess honestly, this whole thing, or there was more fuel being added to the fire after Izzy basically said that he was going to go up to light heavyweight, right? And John Jones vacated his title. I think this Twitter beef and beef in general is going to keep going on until we have that fight. The fight's probably going to happen sometime next year, I hope. I think that John Jones, he might not go to heavyweight until he fights Izzy, but you never know, because if you go to heavyweight, he has a potential matchup against Stipe, potential matchup against also Ngannou, right? Depending on who wins that fight. But what do you think though?
So John Jones has a very big ego, and it's been known for since before he was champion. He really talks in like the third person, essentially, where he believes that he's going to be the greatest. He is the greatest. He believes he deserves a lot more respect than he actually gets. Right. So from the MMA community and casuals, they really harp on his. This is his perspective. My impression of what his perspective is they really harp on his negatives, right? So his DUIs, his dope popping for PEDs, everything, the going under the ring. It feels like he believes that everybody harps on that way too much and forgets to put respect on his name, right? Because he is still statistically one of the greatest fighters ever. From a round perspective, beating people like 10-9 essentially every single fight, every single round. He's able to beat other people at their own games. He's able to squash former champions like their regular top 15 fighters. So a lot of people have turned him into a meme, right? So he feels like he doesn't get the respect that he should get, and when he sees people like Khabib or he sees people like Izzy who are getting that praise from the fan base, he feels like, hey, wait a second, I was the person that did what they did and did what they did for much longer. So why are they getting the respect that I should be getting? So the wash comment that Izzy made, I see what he means. In his last two fights, arguably he could have lost, especially the last one against Dominic Reyes. But the problem is that he didn't lose, and some people believe, based off his performance, it's either a natural decline as fighter get older, or it might just be that he plateaued, right, to the point where he was just bored. He was just going through the motions. He's been doing it for so long. He just did what was needed of him to win those fights. So he didn't necessarily have that thirst or that drive that he would have previously in his other fights, when he faced DC, when he faced whoever you want to say, Shogun, right? He doesn't necessarily have that drive anymore.
But don't you also think it's a lose-lose situation for John Jones if he fights Izzy? Because if you put it this way, Izzy, I mean, he's moving up in weight, and John Jones, he's not even a natural light heavyweight. So he fights the dude. He's fighting a smaller guy who's been in the UFC for like a shorter amount of time, right? So you have to think that, like, even if he does win, like, it won't be to the same effect as if Izzy wins, right? So that's why I see it.
Yeah, it's not necessarily lose-lose. It may be from perspective of UFC, right? You lose on Izzy's potential to make you even more money and have another star. But from John Jones' perspective, he beats him, backs up all the talk that he did, uses that momentum to even become a bigger star, right? Get back at all the fans that hated on him, right? There's I don't think it's a lose-lose for John Jones, but maybe for the UFC. the whole projection, I keep repeating this, is Israel wanted to fight him in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
There is a chance. However, there's a roadblock that that Izzy has to get through first. It's Jan Blachowicz, right?
Yeah.
If he loses against Jan Blachowicz, that John Jones fight kind of goes on the back burner for a while until Izzy is able to regain his momentum and whatnot. I do know that Izzy made a comment when asked about that, saying, "Hey, why not fight John Jones right away instead of fighting Jan Blachowicz?"
Yeah.
And he said, basically, relax, calm down. It'll be better if I beat him and then make my way through.
Mm-hmm.
Just be patient. So there's that mystique around Izzy where he can't lose, and you want to believe that he'll just walk through Jan Blachowicz, but there's a big chance that he loses.
Yeah.
Because he's a much bigger guy. Izzy saying that he's not necessarily putting on mass, which is the typical thing that people do, is that when they move up, they put on mass.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because they want to be able to absorb and fight people at the higher weight class in a similar type of body shape.
Yeah.
But he's basically saying that is the wrong school of thought. I am not going to gain weight. I'm going to just simply be at the fighting weight that I currently am at and just cut less weight, basically. So he's going to be the same fighter he was at 185, just less depleted from the weight cut.
Mm-hmm.